Four, three, two, one. We are live. Hello and welcome to PropTechBuzz, a business podcast on global PropTech, where we talk to PropTech founders from all over the globe and learn from them how they build and scale successful PropTech companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me one such PropTech founder, Kiran John. Kiran is the co-founder and managing director at Terapact. Terapact is India's leading digital twin company focused on real estate, manufacturing, and retail. They have mobilized over $2 billion of real estate using their applications and work with some of the largest developers in the country. They are simplifying the way real estate is marketed and sold by giving customers confidence to invest off the plan. Now, as you can imagine, I just read out a template description from their website, but we have Kiran himself today, who is going to demystify their business, what's Terapact into, and all of that. But before we get into the meatier stuff of Terapact, we would love Kiran to give a brief intro about himself. So, Kiran, welcome to PropTech Buzz. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me, and quite thrilled to be here and share. Our journey. We started in 2016, so it's been a while since we've been doing this.
Nice.
A little bit about myself. So, hi everyone. I'm Kiran. I'm one of the co-founders here at Terapact. Basically, as a company, we've been seeing ways of trying to make a connection with customers, and we're seeing that, through a digital means, how can you make that a meaningful relationship? How can you share sort of your vision with customers using digital? And this is sort of manifested in various different iterations of our software. From my perspective, I've always been a digital person. I started my career back in 2006. I used to work in consulting for a very long time. Interestingly, not in real estate, but in healthcare. I spent a long time in healthcare. And then, we did a lot of work in digital transformation. I used to lead several very large initiatives. And then when I looked at the India market, when I wanted to start a company, I noticed that, no one was really looking at it from the same lens that I was so used to looking at it from a global perspective, whether it was consulting businesses in Europe or in America, just had a very different sort of scale, right? So then when we looked at starting a business here in India, I thought it was, one of the largest industries to look at that was just waiting for transformation to happen on the customer side. People were, large developers were spending money on, implementing SAP to improve their operations. But if you really talk to any of them and say, hey, what did we done for your customer? Not really much, right? They put Salesforce in place and built a website and built a landing page and maybe did a drone video. And then all of a sudden, they were thinking about digital transformation. But I had such a different perspective. So I wanted to bring that global perspective of building relationships with customers, but how can you do that in a meaningful way that actually impacts sales and marketing?
Got it. And but so you just did some homework and you thought there is opportunity in real estate and you saw a gap and you just got started. Is that how it is? And you mentioned which year was that? 2000 and
2000. So we started the company in 2016. I started this in 2016. Yeah, I started my career in 2006. So in 2016, I remember the very first project that we did was it was actually for a prestige project called Golfshire. Here in Bangalore, it's a 230-40 acre sort of golf course project. And they were looking at ways to just change the whole customer experience of, what it would be to own a villa on the golf course. And we came up with this really interesting concept. We did 360 video around the course and built a little game that someone can putt off and, from various holes. And, it was just a completely refreshing way of marketing real estate, which has never been done in the country. I'm talking about 2016 when, Oculus and stuff like that was all still wired, right? People had to carry heavy systems to get this going. So my vision has always been, how can you use technology to improve that experience, give people confidence to really make an investment? So I think we were probably one of the very first companies in the country that looked at this in a very commercial manner, right? People were running experiments in gaming and all of that other kind of stuff, but there were hardly, I think, maybe one or two companies who were actually trying to, introduce something commercially viable to real estate at the time, using customer experience as sort of the crux of the entire offering.
Talk us through your very early prototype of what you were building. So you had clearly, I'm sure when you build something, you run into iterations, and then maybe you pivot a
Yeah,
bit, and then but you clearly knew you wanted to solve the marketing piece of real estate, and you wanted to do it in a digitally in a 360-degree view. And
yeah,
you and did you have a co-founder? Like, how did you brainstorm on
yeah,
this idea? How did you prototype? Just walk us through. It's
yeah,
always interesting to know
yeah.
the early part of the journey.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Those were. I mean, now my days are much more mundane than they used to be back when we started, and spent hours prototyping, working with my development team, and saying, hey, can this actually be done? So our very first prototype of this was, we said we're going to do 360 video, and we're going to shoot it like as if you were there, right? So how can we make it sort of like a video experience that you have control of where you want to go, right? So imagine that you were watching a movie and you get to choose the ending of that movie. So you can choose
Hmm.
whether the hero lives or the hero dies, right? And you have these multiple scenarios. So we had actually built a platform, a web-based platform. That was iteration one of Teraviz. So Teraviz is our product suite, and version one was just 360 video that you can click on points and it would sort of take you there, and you could explore a property. And the whole idea was that at that time when Prestige Golshire was still a little far away from the city, perception wise, now it's much closer. At that point in time, just selling to an overseas market, everybody in Bangalore had already decided whether they wanted to buy, don't buy, right? But when you wanted to sell to an overseas market, how do they come and explore a project? Today, a lot of them, if you really think about it, even now, 2023, they still ask, a relative to go and check it out, or some friend or a business partner, right, to go and see it and then validate what they think they know. But there's no real way for them to physically be there, right? And that's the gap that we wanted to solve. Now, back in 2016, we didn't have great internet, right? And every time we tried to stream, it would we would be streaming 600, 700 MB per session, and you can imagine we had roadblocks in terms of existing infrastructure being able to deliver that same experience. Today, we can run multiple of those experiences in parallel, and we wouldn't have a problem today because we've got 5G and all of the other stuff. But back then, I think one of our biggest challenges was the existing infrastructure. It wasn't really ready. VR as a technology, we did experiment a lot with VR in the beginning, in our early days, then realized that it's not as ubiquitous as people think it is.
Hmm.
Not too many people have VR headsets at home. After you use some of the hardware that's available today, you get a headache if you're wearing glasses and you have powered glasses. It's not a great experience. It might be something nice and fun to do in a sales experience center on site, but not really
Hmm.
an amazing experience if you're sitting at home. So
Got
we
it.
took a sort of a product call that we're just going to do web based. Everything will be VR compatible if somebody wants it. But
Hmm.
we knew that everyone's going to have a phone in their pocket. Everyone's going to have 4G and 5G in a few years. You're going to
Got it.
be able to stream, at 100 Mbps soon. And that's really, what we built our platform on. So version one was super heavy, took a long time to build and deploy. Experience was great because it was all 4K back in the day. And not too many
Hmm.
people were doing 4K experiences in 2016. We were probably one of the very few that actually sort of experimented and delivered on that path. So I think that was our very first iteration. Um, my business partner, Abhishek, so Abhishek and I were in school together, and he was a couple of years my senior. And believe it or not, when we started the company, we were playing poker, and I was saying, hey, I'm trying to start something in this area, and I think it's super exciting. And he said, you know what, I love this whole vision, and what I think we can build together. And it was so serendipitous that that's how we started. We were school friends for many years, and he's a couple of years my senior, and that's how we started. And we've been, the rest is history.
And you're still going strong today as partners, right?
Yeah, of course. So
Okay. Are
absolutely.
there, are there
Uh,
just two founders, or are there more in
yeah,
the?
it's it, no, it's just the two of us. But we've got very clear roles in the company. Abhishek is our chief sales and marketing officer. He runs all of that area of the business. I'm responsible for delivery and technology. He wins business, I deliver business, right? So it's a very simple sort of structure, and that's how we've built our teams as well.
So tell me, when you began, what was the industry like, and how did you get your first customer? Like, what was your pitch like? What did you convince them? What was the ROI that you are promising? Give us a sense
Yeah.
of the ecosystem at that time.
Yeah. So back in 2016, I can actually show you some contrast, right? So in 2016, um, very few companies actually realized that they needed a different customer experience. So if you look at the
Hmm.
way real estate, residential in particular, I'm not talking, we don't do anything on the commercial side, but if you look at residential real estate, they have a standard three or four things that they invest in to launch a project, right? First thing that they do, they build a scale up model, right? Second thing they do a walkthrough video of some sort. And the third thing that they do is they get some renders developed by some render agency, right? And then they proudly go to market. Pardon me?
What
Yeah,
do you mean by scale up model?
a physical scale up model of the actual building,
Okay, okay,
right? So
and
those are
this show,
the three.
it's like
That's
a
what they
demo.
use to take a product to market. Correct.
Got
It's
it.
a physical Lego building of sorts, right?
Yes,
And
got it.
it's built to scale. It could be one
Right.
is to 100, one is to 150, so on and so forth, based on the scale. Now, those are
Got
the
it.
three basic assets that any builder uses to take a product to
Hmm.
market. What we were
Right.
saying is, hey, all of this was great 25 years ago. If you look
Hmm.
at the way the customer is going today, he is discovering and coming to a conclusion of whether to invest or not based on the
Hmm.
experience you're going to offer him online. And none
Hmm.
of these assets translate beautifully in an online setting. It's great if you can show the person he comes to your office. But what happens when the guy's sitting, he can't travel, he's far away, he doesn't want to spend that time making the trip, all of that kind of stuff, right? And this is not a Bangalore problem, it's an India wide problem. So,
Right.
what are you going to do as an organization to address this? You all have made a lot of investments in other areas of your business, but in this
Right.
area of customer engagement, what have you
Hmm.
really done to improve that launch success? And what
Got
we
it.
were talking about was sort of sci-fi in nature, right? Because we were saying,
Got
hey, the customer will come online and will learn 60-70% of what you have to offer online without asking your sales guy. Right? When he
Right.
comes to the site, he's going to make that balance 30% of the decision based on his experience there. But a lot of his preconceived notions will either get validated or invalidated online. Now, that was a
Got it.
big sort of shift in mindset from the way sales was actually done back in 2016. Of course,
Got it.
people were doing Facebook advertising and all of that stuff was still happening. But it
Hmm.
consumed a very small percentage of their budget. People were saying, okay, some Facebook is there. Chalo, let's do, give the marketing guy 10 lakhs, let's see what he does, right? It was never
Yeah.
about giving him 60% of the budget, right?
Right.
60% will still go towards Spring, 10 times of India partnerships and stuff like that. So what
Right.
we were talking about back in 2016 was almost a complete realignment of what a
Right.
successful launch is going to look like in the future and how can you start gearing your teams to start thinking in this manner. So that was
Right.
actually, I think, just that mindset change in 2016. It's taken a
Hmm.
while. Now, when we talk to customers, everybody gets it straight off the bat. We're sitting in
Hmm.
2023 right now, and
Hmm.
almost every single customer, I don't have to spend time educating him about why this makes sense anymore. They're like, okay, this is exactly what we should be doing it. Because if you build a virtual apartment online, I don't
Hmm.
need to build a physical apartment and spend 2 crores on construction or 2,000 bucks a square foot to construct something, and then plus
Hmm.
interiors and all of that stuff. I don't need to do that. I can build all
Hmm.
my stuff virtually and it's still impactful to the customer. What do I want him to do? I want him
Hmm.
essentially to get confidence to make a decision quickly. And if I can
Correct.
save 2 crores in the bargain, it's great.
Right. So I still remember, I've been out of India for long, but I still remember the days where they used to construct a demo apartment or a demo house, and then you would walk in. It would be actually furnished, so it would give a sense of how a complete house or apartment would look like. So are those the days bygone? Are there no demo houses anymore? Is that how it is?
A large percentage of our customers, in fact, they still build one. They'll
Mm.
typically build one, but all their other variants, they'll do virtual apartments with us, right?
Got it.
So we've done a lot of this stuff, in fact, for other customers. Just sorry.
You said people are still having at least one unit, but the variants are all virtual.
Yeah, they were like, okay, see, if I have six variants, while I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to get budget to build six. It doesn't make financial sense because I've got to knock it down at the end of the sale, right?
Mm.
So what if I can give the customer the same level of confidence? He just wants to know at a high level what his home is going to look like. He wants to know the configuration of that home, the respective size of what he's buying, right? Views from the windows and all that other kind of stuff, right? And I think digital lends itself so beautifully to this that you don't
Mm.
really need to build virtual homes. You don't need to build physical homes anymore. In fact, I
Mm.
have a range of customers, some that build just one unit on site, and
Mm.
then the rest of them are all virtual. And then I have some
Mm.
customers who have not bothered building a physical model apartment at all. And they said,
Mm.
Kiran, this just doesn't make sense anymore. I'm not going to spend 2 crores on this. I can knock out
Mm.
all my variants just virtual online, and it's good enough in terms of look and feel. It's as good as seeing it because we use really high-end technology to deliver all these experiences. So our backend is all built on a platform called Unreal Engine. It's what all
Mm.
your high-end games are built on. So in terms of realism, material matching, it's all ex- extremely similar to what you would deploy on the site. So they were like, okay,
Mm.
this is more than enough than having to invest a couple of crores for each apartment.
Nice, nice, nice. So why don't you walk us through your evolution? So you started with a mostly an immersive kind of a 360-degree immersive video.
Yeah,
Okay. And then what
yeah,
has the journey been like? What has been the technology evolution over time? And what is the state of Terapact today? You mentioned about
yeah.
just because it's mostly you are a tech player, right? So why don't you walk us through the tech evolutions over the years?
Yeah. So we've at the very beginning, it was all about 360 video, right? We thought that captured a lot of what we wanted to do. There was one big drawback when you do 360 video,
Mm.
which is you've got to wait for something to be built before you can capture it, right? And
Right.
which means that this plays a role only in finished apartments, right? When you have a
Mm.
project almost done, then this makes sense, right? You take photographs, you stitch it together, all that stuff, right?
Mm.
And there are some very large companies that have made incredible amounts of money doing that. So there's a company in the US called Matterport. So Matterport basically has its own proprietary camera, and you can click and you can basically stitch walkthroughs. And a lot of realtors in the US use it to showcase homes, right? We
Mm.
weren't playing in the individual home market. We were working with builders and developers. So on
Mm.
average, each of the projects that we work with are 10 to 15 acres in terms of size. Today, we've got, I think, close to about 12, 13,000 crores of inventory that is being represented and driven through our platforms from a showcasing, perspective. So when we first started, it was about, almost nearing completion projects. And we realized there's a big gap in the market for projects that are to be launched. Now,
Mm.
in that particular scenario, there is nothing to shoot. So you got to
Mm.
create everything from scratch. And that sort
Mm.
of gave rise to, all the modeling stuff that we started to do, right? So we built, highly accurate models of homes, of buildings, of whatever architecture and structure that, we were representing. And then we gamified it. So that was sort of phase two. Then
Mm.
we built a series of applications and variants of that application to allow people to take a virtual tour of an imaginary home. Right, this is where the
Mm.
variants come in. You built one on site, and the rest was all delivered to us. This was all still all web based
Mm.
because we
Mm.
realized that web is what's going to make it ubiquitous across
Mm.
customers. Right, he doesn't have to have a RTX card on his system to run an experience, or he doesn't need 64 GB of RAM and all that stuff. Right, so we removed all the onus of owning high tech technology and hardware. We took that off the customers' sort of shoulders. And then we said, you know
Mm.
what, we should deliver an experience that doesn't matter the guy sitting in, in a tier two city or a tier three town or in a tier one city. It shouldn't really make a difference whether he's in India or anywhere else in the world. How can we deliver
Mm.
a world class experience for him to at least see these homes? So that was sort of variant two. right? Then we started moving on to doing entire projects. So from building individual homes, so it could be 7 variants for a builder, 10 variants for somebody else, right? So we used to do all of this stuff. Our final version, which is the version which is the most baked version, we launched it a couple of years ago, is what we call Explorer. Now, Explorer is basically a digital twin, a RERA compliant digital twin of an entire project of the entire neighborhood. And it allows customers to walk through that project. It's totally compliant. It's built with all the same materials. So when someone is seeing an apartment or a railing of a balcony, that is exactly what their contractor is going to execute on, right? So we've spent a lot of time building the know-how of how to do this quickly and do it correctly the first time around, right? And then what we've also done is that we've added decision-making tools on the top, right? So we've allowed people to find a home, to book a home online. We've done this, in fact, with Raymond. So Raymond is one of our customers. We did this for a project of theirs called 10x Habitat. It's a very, very large project, and we built an entire booking engine for them. So a customer can go in, explore the project virtually online. He can use the filters to find his perfect home, and then he can go ahead and book that home online on the Raymond CRM system, right? So we've integrated the entire thing. So we've gone all the way from our early days of visualization to becoming a transaction platform, right? And that's really, what we would like to build on in future iterations of this.
Nice. Because while you were talking, I was imagining that people would license your software and use it in their own transaction platform. Instead, you built your own transaction platform, like a marketplace of sorts. So what's the size of this platform? Like what's the inventory like?
So today we've got close to about 12,000 crores of inventory on this.
Okay, so that is the value of those. But if I were to ask numbers of
units, to break it down, about 40 odd projects, Yeah, and cuts across Bangalore, Bombay. Bombay is our largest. Last couple of years, I think 70% of all the work that we've done has been in Bombay. Bombay has just been thriving. Bombay, Thane has just been thriving. So we spent a lot of time working on very large projects there. But yeah, that's kind of what we currently have access to. We haven't monetized it yet because we're still focused on enabling the transaction to happen. But very soon, we'll be launching something that will help monetize this as well.
Got it. So you mentioned you carefully mentioned RERA compliant digital twins. So is this because there could be ways wherein you promise with a digital twin something and what you deliver is not what you promised, right? Is that why it is RERA compliant?
Yeah, you have to have it RERA compliant now because you know what? I'll tell you all the things that typical marketing agencies will do. We are not a marketing agent; we are more like a customer experience tech company. But I'll tell you, a lot of marketing agencies working in the real estate space will do, right? They'll pick a balcony, for example, to do a render, right? Then they'll change the focal length to make the balcony look super big.
Super big.
Because now to make the balcony look really big, right? And then they'll write below artist impression. Now you tell me, is there there has to be a limit to, this stuff, right? Now, so, you can't just change the focal length and make a 3 feet balcony look like 10 feet, right? So these are things that in the past people would get away with. Now with RERA coming in a few years ago, we've had to tighten all those screws across platforms that builders were using. Whether it's in their ads, now ads in Bombay, for example, have to have the QR code to the RERA website, to the specific link on that RERA website, right? So I think as a economy trying to govern this industry is one of the very probably the second largest industry in the country, right? In terms of governing it to protect the customer as well as to protect the developer, there's tightening that is started to happen across. Now when people are going digital, it means that there has to be tightening there as well. So we've been one of the very first platforms to ensure that everything that we do in terms of representing a project is completely RERA compliant in terms of what we finally build the project to look like. So if you're looking at a garden, that is exactly what's going to be developed on site. And the way we do it is that we work very closely with most of the large architects in the country, from RSP to Praxis, Hafiz Contractor, Broadway, a bunch of people, right? And these are all our clients' architects. So because we work with a developer, we have working relationships across these different teams. So we've also learned how to ensure that that architect's vision is getting accurately represented, and it's not taking too much of a creative leap, because that's when things can go haywire, given that it's becoming a very compliant industry, and unless you can comply, you can land yourself into a lot of trouble legally as well. So that's something that we're very particular about.
So the thing is, technology space is always much faster than regulation, right? So is RERA trying to match up or catch up to the speed of what technology is, 3D, AR, VR? Because there is there could be loopholes everywhere, right? So is RERA trying to be smart? Because
I think RERA has
yeah
RERA has a lot to catch up on. For example, the whole new use of generative AI, right? So today you can build images of what your living room can look like. Today, how do you ensure that, say the agency that was working on your specific project isn't doing all this other stuff, right? Which then causes problems later. It might give you a fabulous looking image or a brilliant looking video, but if you're not careful, there's a very fine line between making stuff up on the fly and then ensuring that you're delivering what you promise, right? So I think while agencies are very excited to jump on generative AI platforms and Mid-Journey and things like that to enhance their visual outputs, in an industry like real estate, 10 years ago, if this happened, they may have gotten away with it. But today, you've got to be a little careful, because you can't change structure. You can't move a window from point A to point B or increase the size, because it's not going to match the elevation on the other side. It could open you up to a lot of legal issues later, that I bought something off a picture which isn't what's being delivered today. So I think RERA has a lot of catching up to do, because a lot of the agencies responsible for delivering experiences, whether it's advertising agencies or creative agencies or tech companies like us, we've got to be very careful about where we use these tools, because everybody in our companies are so excited about, saying, hey, let's use Mid-Journey because it's cool, right? But it doesn't work like that. You can use it in some areas, but you can't use it everywhere.
Got it. You mentioned about the distinction between what marketing agencies do and what you do. So would you not be also a tool or technology play for marketing agencies as well, or are you directly working with developers? Could you explain that?
So we work directly with developers. Yeah, absolutely. So marketing agencies are typically responsible for sales as well. I know it seems counterintuitive. They call marketing agencies, but they actually do a lot of sales. They're actually sales agencies in many cases. So if you really look at it, what we do is that we work with developers, and we are responsible for the end experience that a customer gets. Now, whether that customer is delivered the experience through a sales representative of the builder or the developer, or it's being sold through a broker or a channel partner, finally what the builder is saying is, hey, this is how I want my project to be represented online and in person. This is the pitch, this is the story, right? And I want to ensure that salesperson 1 and salesperson 1001 are doing the same thing, right? So to bring compliance in the way projects are actually projected, they use our platform, because our platform makes it simple to follow the path, right? Because you're showing them what what you're going to be selling, and the visual story, then everybody has to tell the same visual story. So a lot of times we are not really competing with them. They use our platforms to make their life easier. So it's like we bake the cake, but in some places we get to eat the cake, but also places somebody else is doing the same thing.
Got it. So let's now talk about your current suite of. You have a platform, right? So maybe if you could, maybe I could share my screen here. Terapact.
Yeah.
I always love when there is a suite of products. So you have 3 suite of products, right? So you have for sales and marketing, you have for mobile first experiences, and then experience centers, and you call this suite Teraviz. So do you want to get explain this entire suite for us?
Yeah. So basically, Teraviz is our master suite, right? And what we do is we deliver experiences to 3 different stakeholders. So one is we deliver experiences to sales and marketing teams, right? This could be, in the form of someone buying Explorer for their project, and then the sales teams can use it on their iPads. They can take that entire project with them on their phone and go into a meeting. Or alternatively, a prospect comes into a sales office and they can deliver that world-class pitch with visuals and all of that stuff to make that meeting brilliant, right? That's what we do on the sales and marketing side. A lot of customers also want mobile first experiences, especially let's say that if you're a customer that's sitting overseas and you want to invest in India, you're sitting in Dubai, you're sitting in Indonesia, you're sitting in Singapore, you're sitting in Princeton, New Jersey, for example, right? And you want to buy real estate for your family in India or anywhere in the world. Like our play is actually quite a global play. We've just started with India, but I think over the next couple of years, we'll definitely do something more global in nature. But essentially, you're saying, hey, can I deliver that same experience? Because what you can do on a 200-foot screen by 200-inch screen by 75-inch screen is very impressive just because of the nature of the hardware and all of that. But how does that really migrate when you're holding a Samsung Fold 4 or a Samsung Note or a OnePlus or whatever, right? How does that same experience translate there? Does it make the same impression? So a lot of what we've been doing is actually ensuring that what we deliver as large screen experiences, they have the same kind of impact for mobile as well. Because I think what we're noticing is that all customers may start a journey on one platform and may end the journey on another, right? So you might add something on your Amazon cart on your phone, and you might close the transaction on your desktop when you're at work. So there's the same. We've got to apply that same thinking to our suite. So that's exactly what we've done in terms of migrating what we're doing for sales and marketing teams, but also make them mobile first. The other area, which has actually become quite a large part of our business now, is building very futuristic experience centers. So, for example, we recently did one for a group in Thane called Runwal. So, Runwal is a fairly established, large land developer in Thane, and we did one of their projects for them. So, we helped them build an interactive sales experience center. We did the scale ups for them. We did their entire AV room, right? And the whole underlying sort of purpose of this was to give a customer a world-class experience about a product that's going to take a couple of years to complete, right? Which means that at this point in time, if you go to the site, there's a lot of excavation work, there's foundation work going on, all of that stuff. So when a customer comes in, there's not much for him to see. It's going to take time. So what are you going to do as a developer, as a sales team between that point and the point where you have something to show? And that's really what we do. So we build these very high-tech interactive experience centers that allow you to explore our products, to walk into virtual apartments, to see the views from different floors and all of that kind of stuff. What we've also done is introduce our own hardware, because we're realizing a lot of our experiences are pretty high-tech and heavy in terms of its graphic processing capabilities. So we need fairly high-tech hardware to make all this stuff work. So we launched something called Sirius a couple of years back, and we have our So I said we're not building them, but but of course we're not building semiconductors and stuff ourselves, but we're working with partners to get this to work in the right way, and we're bringing all world-class vendors together, right? So in terms of using the best Samsung and LG screens for our touch, right? Using Nvidia for all our cards, using Samsung for all our hardware, and also for all our hard drives and your solid state drives and things like that. And then we're converting that into a product that can give someone a very customized experience. So for example, as you're seeing on the screen right now, you'll see that, we offer it in different colors and different textures, right? And this is something that you can deploy in that model flat.
Can you explain what am I looking
Sorry?
into? What is this big box, box that I see in
so it's a touchscreen device. So it's a touchscreen device called Sirius. And what it allows you to do is we preload it with all our software that we develop for a developer. And then that can sit in an actual model apartment. So you might be seeing a 2 BHK model apartment, you're in person, and there's an extension of that apartment which has Sirius in it, right? And we can custom build this to, 100 inches to 70 inches to 300 inches. It really just depends, right, on the customer. And then they can go and explore those variants on a system like this.
Nice. Excellent. Very good. Cool. That sounds awesome. So these are the three ones from your suite of products. Am I right?
Correct. Now, in addition to this, of course, we do some standard stuff, right? So we'll do videos for brands, we'll do walkthroughs, we'll do drone. All of that stuff,
Mm.
I think, is what we kind of look at is, basic deliverables that a developer requires, and they want to be able to do it in a superior fashion. Now, because
Got
we've
it.
been using a lot of Unreal Engine for the last 6, 7 years, we've
Mm.
found ways of rendering faster, getting higher quality outputs in less amount of time, being able to turn this around. What would typically take 6 months, we can do like in about 3.5 months. So we've been able to shrink, the delivery cycles quite a bit. And so
Mm.
when customers come to us, they don't only come to us for all our high tech stuff that we do. We have a lot
Mm.
of customers that come to us and say, "Hey, Kiran, can you help us with, just these other assets that we need to complete our launch?" So it's not
Mm.
like we do launches that are always end to end. Sometimes we do pieces of it. But
Mm.
for some of our larger customers, we've done the entire thing, right? So from online to offline to experience centers to sales
Mm.
training on how to use it, all of that stuff.
Oh, lovely. No, see, the thing is, I speak to a lot of PropTech founders and CEOs. I don't get to go this tech. Do you want to shed some light on the Unreal Engine, because not many people are familiar with the 3D world? So is Unreal
Yeah.
Engine the most powerful platform today for building 3D visualizations?
I think there's sort of like two schools of thought here, right? So you have the guys that love Unity, and
Mm.
you have the guys that love Unreal.
Mm.
I've actually built on both. We've had teams that have built on both, and
Mm.
my sort of practical sort of opinion on it is that I think
Mm.
Unreal is a little better.
Mm.
Unity is used for a lot of gaming, but I think,
Mm.
for us, it's not about the gamification of the experience. For me, it's
Mm.
about the reality of how it makes you feel when you experience it, right? After the first couple of minutes, can you get the customer to forget the fact that they're looking at something which doesn't exist? Right? So
Mm.
can you get them to feel immersed in an environment that is not real? They also know
Correct.
that it's not real, but it's good enough for them to believe that it is. Right? So for
Mm.
us, it's all about the quality of the experience, not so much the tech. But we've
Mm.
actually found that, for example, lighting,
Mm.
material accuracy, and some of those technical areas, I feel
Mm.
that Unreal is a little better.
Got it.
It's got a better ecosystem than Unity.
Got it.
But I've also seen some amazing guys do very similar things in Unity as well. So it's not like
Mm.
you can't do in one and you can do in the other. But I think for our ecosystem, it's almost like being open source and being a Microsoft shop, right? So
Got
I think for us, it's a little bit more about being, in that Unreal ecosystem. And
got
we've
it.
spent time in it, and we've built a lot of tools in it.
Excellent. So, Kiran, very, very curious to know about this entire sector. I'm sure you are not the only player. There is a lot of disruption happening.
Yeah.
People are pushing the envelope, not just in India, plus globally. I'm sure you go and attend conferences. You are in touch with where the innovations are happening. Give us a sense of this market. What kind of disruptions are happening? Who are the kind of major players? What's the global outlook on this? Yeah, so
Yeah.
you also mentioned you're not just in real estate, but you are also into did we not say manufacturing and retail as well, isn't it?
Manufacturing and retail. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll talk about real estate first and then I'll jump to manufacturing in a minute.
Yeah.
So, in real estate, what we've noticed is that the work that we do is typically done by 3 or 4 different types of companies, right?
Mm.
So, for example, all the rendering work that we do is typically
Mm.
given to like an architectural visualization company, right?
Mm.
And they would only do that, right? Their core competency would be to take a mood board, build a model, render it, and give the client a still image or a video, right? So there's that one sort of company. Then you
Mm.
have the guys that build scale up models, which is basically like Lego building, right? So you have a completely
Mm.
different set of skills, and you have that
Mm.
person building that. Then you have the guy who's building, virtual homes. Now there are
Mm.
lots of free tools, by the way, that have come up in the market, as plugins on other tools
Mm.
that can build a home, but
Mm.
it can't build it in terms of RERA compliance, in terms of making it feel real. It can give you a sense of dimension that okay, you're going to have a wall here, there's a window somewhere. Right? It can give you a sense of where everything goes, but it doesn't
Mm.
necessarily give you the feel of walking through a real. So you have those types of companies and SaaS platforms that are around, right? Then you have a few companies that have started to actually invest in digital twins. Now, digital twins is a very large industry by itself, and the use
Yes.
cases go far beyond real estate. In fact, in
True.
manufacturing, if you speak to any of the large guys, speak to a
Yeah.
GE, a Philips, a Siemens, a large
Yeah. Yeah.
percentage of a lot of their R&D is all digital twin based, right? Live
Yeah. Yeah.
simulations and things like that. So what
Mostly
we are doing is taking an
factories
offshoot
and
of
all
something
are
like that.
all digital. Because I live in Germany, all the digital transformation happening in factories are becoming digital
Yeah,
twins. Okay, so the efficiency and
correct.
all about how to do predictive maintenance, everything is happening through digital twins of your factories and machines and stuff like that. So I completely understand that.
Correct. So that's a big area, right? So you have some people who have been in that industry, then they want to do something in real estate, right? So you have some
Mm.
of those types of companies. But if you really look at it, I think we're probably the only guys that have been able to bring all these type of competencies together, get people to
Mm.
work together without fighting with each other. Right? Because they all come with very different skill sets. So for example, I have gamers in my office and I have
Mm.
architects in my office. Right? I have
Mm.
graphic designers in my office and I have post-production video editors in my office. I have
Mm.
C plus programmers. And so you see the mix that we are building is a very
Mm.
unique mix of people and skills. And then we're using those, what would have normally not fit very well, sort of a round
Mm.
peg in a square hole sort of a problem. We've been able to fit
Mm.
that in. So I think we're probably the only company right now that's being able to do this and do it at a
Mm.
scale which a public listed company is saying, hey, this is good enough for us. Right? So we do
Mm.
work with a few public listed companies on the real estate side, and we've
Mm.
done some of their projects. And these are large companies that can work with anybody, but they've still chosen to work with us because they see that this mix, getting these type of competencies to work well together and deliver a platform and experience that's unified, that's
Mm.
really where the value is being added. Otherwise, you
Got
can
it.
break this up into 20 pieces and distribute the work, but to get one person to do it with a single vision, I think that's where we've been able to shine a little bit more.
So what would be the category of this business? It is AR, VR, 3D development, marketing tools. Is that how it is for real estate or something of that sort? Like, would that be
No,
a category?
so
Because
I see
the
the
thing is, I'm building PropTechBuzz, right? So PropTechBuzz, we have around 11 product families. Okay, so developer technology is one family. Under developer technology, there is a marketing suite of products, right? So I'm finding it hard to slot you. Are you on the marketing agency side?
correct.
Are you on the tech side and stuff like that? What would be your category, product
So
category?
the simplest way to categorize us is we're a customer experience technology,
Customer
right? So we're a
CX.
customer experience, we're a CX player, right? And we're using different technologies to deliver superior CX, right? In some
Mm.
places, it could be very static and simple as just, rendered images and stills and things like that. But the really sophisticated version of our CX platform is really all our digital twin business, right? Because
Mm.
that's where a culmination of all these skills get aggregated and delivered to a customer. Now, based on the customer sophistication and needs of the project, sometimes they need everything, sometimes they need some of the pieces. So that's what we work with customers to figure out what parts of our suite make sense for them. But in principle, we're a CX company.
If you are a CX company, where are the envelopes being pushed globally? Like, could you name a few big global players that maybe you also follow or you look up to, and like where are the innovations happening? Who are the big players? What's happening globally?
Yeah. So I think on the CX side, Matterport is probably one of the largest. Um, they are, as I was mentioning, they have a platform, they have hardware software solution with SaaS. I think they are probably the most mature one in this space. But again,
How do
they
you spell?
only focus
How do you
on
spell
ready to
Meta?
move in.
How do you spell it? Meta
Matterport,
what?
Matter,
Got it. Okay.
Matterport.
PORT.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Matterport is probably the most sophisticated one in the space, but again, they are very focused on the realtor business. They're not focused
Mm.
on the developer business, right? We are focused on the developer business, not so much on the realtor brokers business, right? So I think in
Mm.
our space, we are probably one of the larger ones. There's another company in Australia called Build Media. So Build Media also does some really interesting stuff. Very similar sort of thought process in terms of how to solve this problem. I
Mm.
think these are the only guys that are really doing anything at a scale which kind of makes sense. There are smaller players doing things in pieces, but at the scale that we are talking about, I think these are the only two guys that are actually doing stuff at this level of scale.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Cool. Now, so we learned about that. Maybe a little bit about your business model, and then we can yeah, just last couple of questions. How do you, so
Yeah.
it's a suite of products. Is it a SaaS product? Do people pay you on subscription, or it is project based? A little bit about that would be helpful.
Yeah. Excellent question. So a large percentage of our business model is really all license business. So it's a license fee that we charge, and then there's a customization fee on top of it. And then, of course, there's annual maintenance because, as you know, a lot of projects take years to complete. And, it's very common for plans to change along those years, right? So maybe in phase one, you'd launch 2 towers. In phase two, you expected to get clearance to add the last 4 floors, but you didn't. But now your original model is 20 floors and you couldn't get to 24. So you got to change that, right? Or maybe you didn't get permission to build something on site, or maybe the original design was not practical anymore. You wanted to do, cascading swimming pools, and your contractor said, "Sir, this looks great, but practically, we don't have strength. Foundation strength is not there because it's on the second floor, and so on and so forth." Right. So designs change over the year and period of sort of delivery. So when we work with customers, we have a very sticky relationship with them because we partner with them across the period of that project. So we're not a type of partner that comes in, does something, and then exits. Right. So we have a very sticky relationship because it's not just licensing, but we stay with them during the course of that project, make whatever changes are needed, things like that. Right. So we're really in it to help them succeed. We're not in it to make that license fee and, sort of leave.
So wanted to also know, are there also other players in India? You mentioned about Matterport outside, but are there players in India also in the same place? I mean, you don't have to name them. You don't have to give them.
Yeah. No, I think there are a couple of small players here as well that are trying to build something similar because they also realize, and I think the market wants it, right? I think in any market, we are really following what the customer wants, right? This is not my invention as such, right? It's a byproduct of multiple conversations and then trying to figure out a solution for the problems that developers have had in the past. So there are small emergence now over the last 2-3 years. We've been also seeing small companies trying to build something similar on the digital twin side. I think where they have struggled to get a little more success is really being able to blend, the aesthetic side of the business needs. At the end of the day, like when you're doing landscaping, I'll give you an example. Everybody has access to the same trees and plants and all that stuff, right? But then there's a difference between a beautiful looking garden and a not so beautiful looking garden. And it's not a technology problem, it's an aesthetics problem, right? So how do you kind of get technologists to understand the design side of the business? And that's typically where a lot of companies have failed and where we have actually invested and got architects on board. We've got interior designers on board. We've got landscape consultants on board. So we built a very good ecosystem that's helped us sort of translate the requirements of a project into something which really looks nice. And that's really where we've been finding, success and edging out over some of the newer guys who've been trying to do this. They haven't figured that piece out. But I think the market is big enough for, all of us to do well.
Coexist. But would it be fair to say that you are one of the prominent names in India when it comes to experience tech, like customer experience?
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of digital twins and the types of customers that we've delivered work to, we're probably the most preferred right now. And I'm saying it, genuinely, very humbly, of course. I'm only basing it on the fact that, the types of projects that we've delivered, the size and scale of those projects that we've delivered, these are not, 1 acre projects. These are large 24 acre, 25 acre. Each of those projects could be, $500 million, $1 billion in terms of value, right? Those are the types of customers that we've delivered to. And we've also had the opportunity to work with some really world-class architects. And, when you're working with some of these larger world-class architects, they're not doing small projects anymore, right? You look at an RSP or a Praxis or a Hafiz Contractor or Broadway, right? They're not doing tiny projects anymore. They're doing large-scale projects. And for whatever reason, we end up being included in that mix. So I think in terms of our experience, we're probably, we've got the most amount of experience in doing, really large projects.
So since this is a mix of technology and projects, uh, can you scale this massively, or it has a constraint of how much you can scale as a business for this? Like, say for example, I mean, I'm assuming you are today operating only for the Indian market. Am I right, or are you also looking
Correct.
at
No, we only do India right now. Yeah, you're right.
right? So if somebody is watching this podcast, or you when you launch on our platform, which is PropTechBuzz, and the global eyeballs are on you, are you set to scale, or does your business has a constraint on how much you can scale at any given point of time?
So we don't have a particular restraint as such, right? I think where there is a challenge, I would say, is how real estate um, is very country specific. So, for
Mm,
example, I was in Copenhagen a couple of months ago,
mm,
and I saw a bunch of really world class buildings and stuff like that, right? And Copenhagen, for example, is very particular about what you
mm,
can build, right? It's not, you can't just design what you want and put it up there, right? It
mm,
has to follow a lot of rules. Now,
mm,
those rules are very specific to Copenhagen, for example, but the same
mm,
rules may not be specific to London, for example, right? So as
mm,
you begin to scale, the back end of delivering this is completely scalable. But to
mm,
ensure that we are able to sort of implement the understanding the nuances of that marketplace and its rules and regulations. So, for example,
mm,
we understand RERA really well here, right?
mm,
As much as any broker understands RERA, I think we understand
mm,
RERA equally well, right? But
mm,
if you ask us, how is that going to translate if you were to enter the Middle East market? There's going to be a
mm,
learning curve in terms of compliance. But once we
mm,
overcome that learning curve in terms of compliance and what is expected, what is, so on and so forth, I think the rest of the technology is scalable. And also, what
mm,
we've done is we've built a bunch of tools that allow us
mm,
to do things like, for example, assets. We have an
mm,
insane number of library assets for all our models, right? And a
mm,
lot of it is cut, copy, paste if we want it to be, right? So we can build
mm,
entire cities, we build tools and things like that. So all of that stuff
mm.
is highly scalable. Of course, complying and making sure that it works in a city like a place like Copenhagen, or works in
Yeah, yeah.
Melbourne, or works in that might be a bit of
Yeah, in
a
that case, you'd
adjustment
want
to
to
the
work.
model.
You'd want to work with local partners and stuff like that. The reason I'm very curious
Yeah,
about this question is, first of all, I'm very fascinated with what you're building, and PropTechBuzz offers go-to-market strategies for exciting PropTech companies that are non-US into the US. So I have got two veteran US advisors whose job is only to help exciting new PropTech companies in non-US, whether it's any emerging, whether it is Africa, India, or
yeah,
from the European region. How can they make market entry? Because many a times what happens is, I talk to PropTech founders. They have never even imagined going beyond their geographies. Okay, and
yeah,
I can understand the constraint that they think that real estate is still local, or there's a lot of market to capture, but they don't think about partners. They don't think about going beyond that. So I will have a separate conversation on this one, Kiran. Maybe we can have it
yeah,
to
absolutely,
the scope of this one. But thanks. This
absolutely.
is it was a lot of revealing information about a sub niche sector which I was not aware of. We would love to
Yeah,
launch you on our platform, because we are creating a marketing tech as a vertical. We will also have an AR VR 3D vertical as well. So you could actually place yourself in multiple verticals, and we are creating a big developer ecosystem where the developer communities are going to be there. They would be able to see the choices, the tech space, and it's a global platform. And that's why I was very curious to know, with this podcast, with our platform, you would get a lot of eyeballs, and that's why I wanted to know what's your plan like. But thank you
yeah,
for
absolutely.
spending time with us, Kiran. Maybe the last question here is, where do you see yourself in the next few years from now, like where Terapact is today? You're working with some of the biggest names in the industry, but what does the next 2 to 3 years look for you?
Yeah. So our immediate priority right now is we're going to look at entering the Middle East market soon. We've already started some conversations there. I think it's a booming market, and a lot of our customers have also started to show interest in sort of exploring property overseas, golden visa, all that stuff has been happening the last couple of years, right? And I think the Middle East market has been something that I feel, has the quality of construction, building, design that, we like as a company as well. So I think there's a lot of similarity in terms of sort of our aesthetic sense around some of these areas. So Middle East is going to be the first sort of priority for us. I think after the Middle East, we're going to look at building a marketplace, so sort of monetizing what we currently have. So that's going to be the second priority. So I think with just these two priorities, we're going to be busy for the next 24 months. And then we'll take it from there. But I think right now, just India, Middle East is big. We may look at Europe as well. Europe is still, again, as I said, very fragmented market. Every country is its own. Yeah. So that's going to take a little bit of time. But we might look at adding maybe some local partners in those regions. Might set up a sales office or something like that. So that's something that we're ready to invest in. We just have to find the right. It's like a marriage, right? You find the right partner to help us go down that path. So that's sort of our top two priorities for me. And my partner to be focused on.
Excellent. Kiran, thank you so much for your time and taking us through this rabbit hole of sorts, which we were not aware of. Many of them are not aware of. But all the best for Terapact, and we will keep a close eye with you. And whenever you have something more exciting on top of the suite that you're offering, we can have you over again and talk about other innovations that you keep adding on top of your platform. With that, thanks so much, Kiran.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. Have a good day.
See you around. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.